Confidence starts with your reply. Have you ever walked away from a conversation and thought, why did I say that? Or worse, why didn't I say anything at all? Confidence doesn't disappear in big moments. It disappears in the tiny replies we give every single day. And today, I'm going to show you how one confident reply can completely transform how the world sees you and how you see yourself. Confidence begins long before you choose the words you want to say. It begins in the sound your voice makes when you start speaking. Most people think confidence comes from having the perfect answer prepared, but the truth is far simpler. People feel your tone before they ever understand your words. Someone can say the most brilliant sentence in the world, but if their tone is shaky, rushed, apologetic, or uncertain, the message loses all its power. Meanwhile, someone else can say something simple but deliver it with ease, calmness, and intention, and suddenly people listen. They lean in, they trust. Think about the last conversation where you felt unsure. Maybe your heart was racing a little. Maybe you were overthinking how the other person would react. When you're in that mindset, your voice follows your emotions. It becomes softer, quicker, or less direct. The tone exposes your insecurity before you even realize it. But the good news is this: you can train your tone to work for you, not against you. Confidence in your tone comes from presence. When you're truly present, you're not fighting your nerves, you're controlling them. You're not trying to impress, you're simply expressing. The most magnetic people don't rush to be understood. They take their time, they breathe, they choose a pace that makes others feel like every word matters. And that is exactly what creates authority. Imagine saying yes in a rushed, high-pitched tone. Now imagine saying it slowly, with a grounded, steady voice. The word didn't change, but the meaning did. People don't respond to the word. They respond to the energy behind it. Your tone tells others how they should treat you. It tells them whether they should take you seriously, whether your ideas deserve space, whether you are someone they can rely on. And here's the part most people never realize. Your tone affects you too. When you speak with more calmness and intention, you actually begin to feel more confident. Your brain hears your voice and thinks, I'm okay. I've got this. Your tone becomes a message you send not only to others, but to yourself. It becomes a feedback loop, a powerful one. So if you want to build real confidence, start with your tone, slow down, breathe, speak from your chest, not your throat. Let your voice fill the space instead of shrinking into it. The moment you do this, your words will carry weight. People will pay attention. They won't just hear your voice, they'll feel your certainty. And that is where true confidence begins, not in the perfect reply, but in the energy you bring to it. Most people think confidence is about speaking quickly, responding instantly, and proving they're sharp enough to keep up. But the truth is the opposite. Real confidence shows itself in the pause, that small, powerful moment before you reply. When someone asks you a question, challenges your opinion, or puts you on the spot, the instinctive reaction is to answer immediately. You don't want to seem slow, confused, or unsure. But that reaction doesn't come from confidence, it comes from fear. Fear of judgment, fear of silence, fear of disappointing someone. The pause is where you take back control from that fear. When you allow yourself to pause, even for a single second, everything changes. You create space between the moment and your reaction. You choose your words instead of letting your nerves choose for you. That pause is the difference between a calm, centered reply and a rushed, defensive one. People who lack confidence fear silence because they think it exposes them. Confident people use silence because they know it strengthens them. The silence becomes a signal that you are not pressured, not rushed, not emotionally triggered. You are thinking, you are present, you are intentional. The pause also communicates something profound to the other person, that you respect yourself enough to give your words value. When you jump to respond instantly, you teach people that your thoughts are reactive, not deliberate. But when you take a moment, you show them that your mind is steady, not shaken. You show them that you care about clarity, not speed. In conversations, people don't just read your words, they read your composure. And composure is revealed in the space between sentences. What most people don't understand is that pausing doesn't make you look unsure. It makes you look wise. It shows that you're processing, absorbing, reflecting. And that's incredibly attractive in both professional and personal conversations. When someone watches you pause before replying, it sends a subtle message. I'm confident enough to think before I speak. It makes you appear more thoughtful, more mature, and more grounded. And there's another advantage. The pause helps you avoid emotional reactions. When you slow down your reply, you give your brain time to shift from emotion to logic. You stop yourself from snapping, overreacting, or agreeing to something you don't actually want. You speak from intention instead of impulse. You choose the response that aligns with your values, not the one that tries to please the moment. So when you feel pressure to answer quickly, remind yourself that the pause is your power. In that brief second, you regain control of your voice, your thoughts, and the entire direction of the conversation. The world may rush you, but confidence lets you slow down. And that 1 second can change everything. One of the biggest reasons people lose confidence in conversations is because they feel the need to over-explain themselves. They don't just say what they think. They wrap it in apologies, disclaimers, and nervous justifications. They say things like, "I'm sorry, I just wanted to say," or "I hope this makes sense, but," or "if that's okay, maybe we could." These extra words aren't harmless fillers. They quietly weaken your message. They tell the other person that you're not sure of your own thoughts. They tell them you feel you need permission to speak. And when you speak like that, your confidence slowly drains away. Confident communication isn't about being louder or more aggressive. It's about being clearer, simpler, more grounded. When you're confident, you don't hide your message behind a wall of excuses. You don't over-decorate your sentences to make them more acceptable. You say what you mean. You say it calmly and directly, and you trust that your words are enough. You don't ask for approval with your tone. You don't try to pre-solve every possible reaction. You simply communicate like someone who respects their own thoughts. But here's the truth. Over-explaining isn't a habit. It's a fear response. People do it because they're afraid of sounding rude, afraid of disappointing someone, or afraid of being misunderstood. They think that the more they explain, the safer they become. But safety doesn't come from exhausting yourself. It comes from clarity. The moment you stop justifying every word, you begin to feel the strength in your own voice. Clear statements don't make you harsh. You can still be kind, warm, and respectful without being apologetic. There's a big difference between politeness and insecurity. Saying this is what I think is not rude. Saying this doesn't work for me is not cold. Saying here's what I can do is not selfish. Those are the sentences of someone who values themselves enough to communicate clearly. When you choose statements over explanations, people listen differently. Your words land differently. You shift the dynamic. Instead of sounding like someone waiting to be corrected, you sound like someone offering something real. Instead of sounding uncertain, you sound intentional. And something powerful happens inside you too. You begin to feel in control. You start noticing that the world doesn't fall apart when you speak more directly. People don't get offended. In fact, they respect you more because they can finally understand what you truly mean. The next time you catch yourself over-explaining, take a breath and simplify. Remove the extra apologies. Remove the unnecessary details. Say what you mean with calm confidence. You'll be amazed at how much stronger, lighter, and more certain you feel. Not just in your words, but in yourself. Most people think confidence shows up in big dramatic moments, but one of the clearest signs of real inner strength is the ability to set boundaries, calmly, respectfully, and without guilt. The problem is that many people associate boundaries with conflict. They think saying no automatically means hurting someone's feelings or disappointing them. So instead, they say yes when they don't want to. They agree to things that drain them. They stay quiet when something bothers them. And every time they do that, they silently train themselves to believe their needs don't matter as much as everyone else's. That is how confidence erodes. Not loudly, but quietly and repeatedly. A confident reply doesn't push people away. It simply creates clarity. Boundaries are not walls. They're doors that open and close based on what you value. You can be kind without being available to everything. You can be respectful without sacrificing your time, energy, or peace. And you can be warm without being walked over. Confidence is not about saying no sharply. It's about saying it with certainty. When you say, "I'd love to help, but I can't today," or "that doesn't work for me," or "I hear you, but I choose something different," you're teaching people how to treat you. And more importantly, you're teaching yourself that your voice holds weight. Boundaries delivered with calmness are powerful because they eliminate confusion. When you are vague, people push, not because they're bad, but because you didn't give them a clear signal. When you're clear, people adjust. Human beings understand directness far more easily than hints, hesitation, or half yeses. A confident person doesn't assume others will figure it out. They express their limits with honesty and kindness. And that combination, the blend of soft and strong, creates trust. What makes boundaries especially powerful is the shift they create inside you. The moment you communicate your needs without over-explaining or apologizing, you feel your self-respect grow. You feel aligned with yourself again. You stop carrying silent resentment. You stop pretending. You stop shrinking into versions of yourself that please others but exhaust you. You begin to feel lighter because you're finally being real. Respectful boundaries also make relationships stronger. They remove guesswork. They prevent bitterness. They invite healthier communication. And they show the other person that you value the connection enough to be honest within it. When you express your limits clearly and gently, you're not being difficult, you're being emotionally mature. A confident reply doesn't need volume. It doesn't need aggression. It simply needs honesty delivered with calmness. That's the kind of communication people remember. And that's the kind that makes both you and the relationship stronger. When pressure enters a conversation, most people immediately shift into survival mode. Their heart beats faster, their mind races, and suddenly they're no longer listening. They're defending, reacting, or trying desperately to appear composed. That inner pressure steals the confidence right out of their voice. But confident people do something very different when they feel that same pressure. Instead of shrinking, they shift their focus. Instead of worrying about how they're being perceived, they get curious. Curiosity is the antidote to pressure because it takes your attention off your anxiety and places it onto the moment, the person, and the message. Think about a time when someone challenged you and you instantly felt tense. Maybe they questioned your idea, misunderstood you, or demanded an answer you weren't ready to give. Instead of taking a breath, your brain likely jumped into defense mode, explaining quickly, trying to fix the misunderstanding, hoping to regain control. But the more you rushed, the less confident you felt. Curiosity changes that dynamic completely. When you respond with curiosity, you don't rush to defend yourself. You don't assume the worst. You ask questions, you explore, you slow down the emotional intensity of the moment. Curiosity might look like, what made you feel that way? Can you explain what you meant a bit more? I want to understand, tell me more about that. These simple responses shift the interaction from pressure to connection. They show the other person that you're not threatened, and more importantly, they remind your own mind that you're in control. Curiosity brings clarity. Clarity brings confidence. There's a hidden power here too. Curiosity buys you time. When you ask questions, you create space to think. You give yourself a moment to breathe, to understand the situation, to choose the right response instead of reacting impulsively. And because the conversation becomes a back and forth rather than a confrontation, the emotional temperature drops, the pressure dissolves, you regain your balance. Curiosity also changes how people perceive you. Instead of appearing defensive, insecure, or overwhelmed, you come across as grounded, thoughtful, and genuinely interested. People feel respected when you try to understand them. Even in disagreement, curiosity builds trust. It signals emotional intelligence. And emotional intelligence is one of the deepest forms of confidence. Most importantly, curiosity protects your self-worth. When you get curious instead of emotional, you stop personalizing everything. You stop assuming someone's tone or words are a direct attack. You stop fighting invisible battles. Instead, you stay centered, not because you're perfect, but because you're aware. Curiosity removes ego and replaces it with understanding. And in that space, your confidence has room to grow naturally, without force and without fear. So instead of tightening up when pressure appears, loosen your grip. Ask, explore, lean in. Curiosity doesn't just change conversations, it changes you. Most people underestimate the power of how they end a conversation. They focus on what they say in the middle or how they start. But the truth is that people remember your last words more vividly than anything else. That's why confident individuals pay attention to their closing lines. Ending a conversation with certainty is not about being flashy or dominating. It's about leaving a clear, controlled impression that reinforces your presence and self-assurance. The way you finish a dialogue tells people who you are, even if the words themselves are simple. Too often, people let conversations fizzle out awkwardly. They mumble a goodbye, trail off, or leave things ambiguous. That uncertainty undermines every word that came before. It signals to others that you are unsure, that you lack control, and that your presence is optional. Confident people understand that every interaction, no matter how small, is an opportunity to reinforce their credibility and self-respect. When you close with clarity, people immediately perceive you differently. They see someone who is composed, reliable, and purposeful. Ending with certainty also prevents miscommunication. A clear closing statement removes doubt about your intentions and your next steps. It can be as simple as, "Great talking to you, I'll follow up tomorrow," or "I appreciate your..." Each of these lines, though straightforward, carries weight because they are delivered intentionally. They signal confidence, organization, and a sense of self. People don't have to guess what you mean or where you stand. You make it obvious without being forceful or arrogant. That level of clarity changes the way people engage with you in future interactions, making them more receptive and respectful. Another powerful aspect of finishing with certainty is the impact it has on your internal state. When you end conversations decisively, you reinforce your own self-confidence. Your mind registers that you are capable of navigating interactions with ease. You leave the exchange knowing that you didn't stumble, over-apologize, or let nerves control your behavior. That sense of accomplishment, even in everyday conversations, compounds over time. It strengthens your overall presence and helps you respond with even greater assurance in future interactions. Confidence in endings also subtly sets expectations for others. People notice how you wrap up discussions. When you do it with calm authority, they learn to treat you with the same consistency, respect, and attentiveness that you demonstrate. Your closing words are a lesson in boundaries and self-assurance. They communicate without overtly saying, "I know who I am, and I will carry myself accordingly." Over time, these small intentional moments shape your reputation, influence, and the way others respond to you. Ultimately, the final words of a conversation are more than just words. They are a tool for establishing presence, respect, and self-confidence. When you end conversations with certainty, you control the last impression, reinforce your authority, and leave both yourself and the other person with clarity. Every confident person understands this. How you finish is just as important as how you begin or what you say in between. It's a simple habit with a profound impact, and mastering it elevates every interaction you have. Confidence is not something you switch on for big moments and switch off for small ones. It is cultivated in the tiny, everyday replies you give. Every word, pause, and tone you choose sends a message to yourself and to others about how you value your own presence. By mastering the way you respond, you stop being reactive and start being intentional. Each confident reply strengthens your sense of self, reinforces your boundaries, and gradually transforms how others perceive you. Over time, these small, deliberate moments build an unshakable foundation of self-assurance. Your voice, your tone, and the pauses you take are more than just mechanics of communication. They are instruments of influence. They allow you to project authority without aggression, calm without passivity, and clarity without arrogance. People are drawn to those who speak deliberately and confidently because they signal control, composure, and trustworthiness. The moment you take ownership of how you reply, you create a magnetic presence that commands attention naturally. You don't have to force it. It becomes a reflection of who you truly are. Boundaries and curiosity amplify this confidence. By setting respectful limits, you communicate self-respect while still maintaining warmth and connection. By leaning into curiosity under pressure, you shift the focus from anxiety to engagement, creating conversations that are meaningful, balanced, and mutually respectful. Confidence is not about winning every argument or pleasing everyone. It's about expressing yourself clearly, intentionally, and unapologetically, while maintaining integrity and connection in every interaction. Finally, the way you end a conversation seals the impact you leave behind. A strong, deliberate closing line reinforces your self-assurance and leaves a lasting impression of authority and calm. Every conversation is an opportunity to practice, refine, and embed this confidence into your daily life. When you combine tone, pauses, clarity, boundaries, curiosity, and decisive endings, you create a communication style that is magnetic, empowering, and authentic. Remember, confidence doesn't start in your head or with what you say. It starts with how you choose to reply. Thank you so much for watching this video. Your time and attention mean a lot, and I hope these tips help you respond with confidence in every conversation. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss more ways to build your communication skills and personal growth. Until next time, speak with clarity, pause with purpose, and always let your confidence shine.